So Dr. B, you sent me some really interesting stuff last night that you've been kind of researching and going over for this presentation. Do you want to lead in by introducing some of that material?
Sure. Okay, so who was here last time we did this?
These are all new people.
Oh, okay, good. So we can maybe be a little bit, repeat a little bit.
Yeah.
So does everyone, is everybody on page with I actually this is a really difficult word to say. I'm gonna try and say it. I don't say it very well. It's ophthisthonka.
Oh yeah, that word. No, I had never heard of it before. Michael might know it.
So it's a group of eukaryotes, like cell organisms that we were once a part of. It's a be like 1.5 billion years ago, around we don't know 2 billion years ago, around that time we were in this family of this was our family that we were in. It's spelled Opisthokonta, so it's Opisthonkta, and we were in the early part of terrestrial Earth. That was our family. That's where humans came from, and we diverged from that family, and mushrooms were also part of that family, which is pretty amazing. I think that that's important to discuss because the reason I'm super interested in the actual history of mushrooms physiology on Earth is because I really truly believe that we co-evolved with mushrooms, and we've probably independently evolved, and we've also co-evolved, and we've also literally, like, we've laterally evolved together with, and so we've had like more than one dance with this particular species of, well, with all mushrooms we've had many dances, right? um, so I think it's pretty cool. Like early early time on Earth was pretty much mushrooms, right? And mushrooms were, they were facilitating the underground network that facilitated and allowed for trees to make forests on Earth, right? Like mushrooms really set things up on Earth for us humans, and all of our animals on Earth. Really, we all got set up with this mushroom network on Earth, and
Yeah, like Dennis would say, mushrooms gave rise to dirt. He says that.
it's true. Actually, it's funny because so like actually it's crazy you said that. Okay, so there's two colonization scenarios that have been proposed. And obviously, if you guys have another one, please let's come up with our own, right? But the two are the green and the brown. So the green scenario is one in which coevolution occurred with algae and early plants, and we had a horizontal gene transfer because of that movement together, right?
I
Then
wrote
we,
this in the notes in the chat, guys. Opus the Conta. That's
yeah,
the
and so
coevolution with mushrooms.
the other scenario is this brown scenario, guys, where like the early colonization of the protosoils, and that's probably, maybe it's both, right? It's usually, the answer is that it's more than one. But so those microbial dusts, they kind of grew and they branched into plant kind of parasites, and then who knows what happened, right? We don't know which of these events occurred. We don't really know. Um, but we do know that those mycelial networks, it's so interesting. Like the reason I'm super fascinated about learning more about how they developed on Earth, because they do the same thing in us. It's really like, I'm going to quickly explain the doctrine of signatures because you guys weren't all here last week. So has anybody heard of the doctrine of signatures?
As above,
Um,
Yeah.
so below, they call it in witchcraft.
yeah, I mean, I would love to hear your, Michael. How do you see that? Because like, I see it, I see it more than one way, and I want to tell you one way I see it, and I want to know if you agree with me, and then I want your opinion. Like, I like, I've been seeing it a lot lately for like the energetics of it. Like, the example I used last time is that like I've got, my kids are grown. You know, if they have pain from a ski injury, I'm probably gonna need to give them like real drugs. I mean, I probably, when I say real drugs, I mean like hardcore herbs like valerian and Jamaican dogwood and those kinds of things. But those are hard hitting herbs. When they were kids, I didn't have to give them as much because they're way more impressionable mentally. And this is when doctrine of signatures plays a pretty big role. Like you can give a kid a homeopathic medicine, which really it's challenging because when you're giving homeopathic medicines, you're using a lot of the energetics and the doctrine of signature of that particular plant. You're assigning a lot of meaning to the medicine. But the reason that my perspective is the reason that can often be helpful is that if I'm giving my child a lot of meaning to the medicine, meaning let's say instead of giving them an actual salve of plantain for their bug bite, and all I have is my lip balm. I've got some pretty hippie lip balms, so it's probably got something benefit in there. But let's pretend it's just like regular Blistex crappy lip balm, right? That has nothing in it but carnauba wax. Well, what I'm saying is that as I'm applying the medicine and I'm letting that kid, my son, when he's 4 years old, letting him know that this is homeopathic arnica and this is what it's for. And the kid is already well versed with arnica, right? Because the kid's been
So
given
you're lying
arnica.
to your child about what you're putting on him?
What's that?
Sorry.
So I think what happens with a lot of these medicines is that like we assign meaning to them, right? And like when we first discovered so many medicines, we didn't quite know. Like you've got to wonder what happened when we first saw Amanita Muscaria. I mean, it's like this beautiful polka dots. Like it's so pretty. It looks like a to me. I always see it as this cute girl at the fair wearing a dress that's holding like a cherry pie, and no one wants to go talk to her, but like everyone wants to go talk to her. It's like people are scared of and intimidated by her, but at the same time, they're kind of like they can't help but look and watch this woman standing in the middle of the fair wearing a polka dot dress holding a pie. I mean, that's really how I see Amanita muscaria. And we assign a lot of meanings to a lot of different herbs. And the reason it's so important is because like now we've evolved to this place where like, wow, like we'll talk a little bit about lion's mane and how amazing it is for neurological. Everyone knows it for neurological, but the thing is, it actually medicinally, it's really, really amazing at bridging the brain and gut, like bridging that mycelial network that like is in our forest as humans, right? And it's crazy that it has this metaphor with what it did with Earth, got the force already. It does the same thing with us. It's incredible. And I wanted to at least let you guys be thinking that way because, like, I think with a lot of these mushrooms, there's so much meaning that we can actually attach to it for ourselves. Like, obviously, with the psychedelic mushrooms, that is always the case. Like if you want to take a psychedelic mushroom and then envision every single oxygen molecule like little tiny bubbles that are shaped like hearts, or they're individual hearts like snowflakes, they're all individual and beautiful, right? You can take those metaphors and you can enhance the effect and action and even the oxygenation of your cells basically from those doctrine of signatures, right? Those little things that you create your own meanings with these medicines. I know that for me, I am super stoked when I have a patient with GI discomfort or problems and they have a mental issue I'm kind of like, wow, I get to use a mushroom that can kill two birds with one stone, that can, has a double edge, this sword. I'm using this weapon that has more than one use. It's really quite cool. So
So one thing that I know about Markin is that he's very like intentional, and I think that's what he's talking about with the doctrine of signatures. It can be as like simple as like when you cut up a carrot, it looks like eyes. When you juice a beet, it looks like blood. I mean, carrots are good for the eyes, beets are blood cleansers. So that's an example of doctrine of signatures, as above, so below. We're looking at these metaphors like the lion's mane looks like brain and nervous system. But also with knowing Dr. B, he just the intention, like the power. This is like the teaching of Joe Dispenza, right? Like the power of intention, the power of um like what the meaning you put like to the medicine. Like he was talking about his kid with Blistex, like telling them that that's like a magical salve. And I know Dr. B does this like in his ceremony for Sacred Acre up here in Alaska, which is like an intentional like music festival. And like this year he made tinctures and like putting that like that energy into the tincture. And we were just talking about this too. It's like the energy you put out is what you attract. Um, right now there's like crazy geomagnetic storms happening apparently, and like I feel like yeah, I didn't know that, but I've been feeling it. Someone hit and run me yesterday in Portland. But the other thing that he was let me tie this all together here with what he was talking about with the lion's mane, how it is like good for so many things, and he can look at like the personality of the person and like what they're going through emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And the lion's mane kind of like is a symbol and like and medicinally addresses all of those things. So it's like so much more than what we would consider like in a Western sense just medicine. It's a very holistic. It's and in my practice, because I am a priestess, we have the church and the apothecary, but it's a spiritual sacrament. And I, you know, not to speak for him, but I know that Markian understands what I'm saying when I say that, because it is like so symbolic and it is so ancient. Something like Amanita, so ancient. And what we were talking about right before this conversation too, before you guys came online, we were talking about how mushrooms are just so perfect for humans medicinally. Like I always go to the mushroom first, because the mushroom is the most like adaptogenic and the most gentle, and it's like it knows me so well. It's so ancient, I trust it so much. Like whereas the plants are like more like offshoots and more refined, and they tend to like pull me in directions more. Like that's why my initial go-to with anything is like I look for a mushroom, because it
And
is
that
so
and that and the
adaptogenic.
thing is, what you're saying totally matches what we're. That's the point. Is that like what Gabby's saying is like, yeah, it makes sense. Like we're in the same family, and the plants are a newer thing on Earth. They are newer, and you
The
know,
opus docanta, wow, so that opens the the conversation for some really trippy stuff, which is like, where did these mushrooms come from, and where do we come from? If we're more closely related to mushrooms than plants, like what does that mean?
it means that we share more physiology with plants, and that's why all these receptors and these pictures, like we talked about this with Amanita muscaria, right? That if you look at the two chemicals that are in that plant, they really mimic these neurotransmitters that we already benefit from. We don't we use them, right? And then of course, I think what's cool about Amanita muscaria is that like it tricks us, right? It's like, well, it's a central nervous stimulant, but for some people, it's going to be a central nervous suppressant. You know, it's like,
Well, yeah, so he's talking about ibotenic acid and muscimol, which are the two like most researched, most like known compounds to produce like effect from the Amanita muscaria. And of course, decarboxylation, like drying and making tea out of the Amanita, that affects the constitution of the mushroom as far as how much ibotenic acid is present and how much muscimol is present. But the Amanita is so adaptogenic, so magical. It has these two compounds. One is a glutamate blocker, so it makes, that's ibotenic acid. It make, for most people, it makes you want to do the boring thing. Like it makes you, it gets rid of that blockage that makes you feel like you're not getting any pleasure from this mundane task. The Amanita really helps like overcome that. So it's very useful for applications like ADHD. I like to use it with mucuna seed, because the mucuna increases L-dopa. And then on the other hand, you got the muscimol in the Amanita muscaria, which downregulates the nervous system through bringing GABA across the blood-brain barrier and binding in muscimol itself, binding to GABA receptors in the brain. If I told you guys what I've been researching lately about Amanita, you would blow your freaking mind. Andrea Puharik. Okay, I might be spelling it wrong. I've put some notes in the chat there. I'm about to start carrying this man's books in the apothecary. Crazy stuff. Like talking about like adrenergic and cholinergic states, and how telepathy is like a combination of like these different states that basically Amanita muscaria produces. And so essentially Amanita, what he's trying to say is that it makes us telepathic. It is so cool.
I mean, nothing would surprise me at this point.
I'm telling you, I read this book this whole trip to Portland. I didn't buy the Wi-Fi. I just read the book, and it's really dense and it's way over my head. But like this guy, he produced this book, Beyond Telepathy, and I don't know if this is the one to start with, but it's the one that got to my house first. The other book he wrote is called The Sacred Mushroom and the Doors to Eternity, I believe. And so I'm still waiting for that book to come. But even in Beyond Telepathy, I mean, it's a lot about like nicotinic receptors, cholinergic states, adrenergic states like the adrenals, the like down regulating the nervous system, things all that the Amanita muscaria does. I hope this content isn't too boring for you guys or too far over your head. We're just kind of talking about what excites us. But and also demonstrating like this is a very these topics are extremely rich. Like if you like to go down rabbit holes, like mushrooms are probably, and you like nature, like follow the mycelium.
Plus, I like to tell you guys things that are significant because I think they actually help us learn and remember. Like the next thing I want to make sure I mention to you guys is that, so remember the KT impact? That's a big asteroid that hit the Yucatan Peninsula and wiped out a lot of dinosaurs. Well, after that occurred in 66 Maya, animals all crashed on Earth, but fungi thrived because fungi has a mycelium network and it can avoid trauma. It can like disperse underground and go away from that trauma. It can go anywhere. It's really quite amazing. So during that, um, the fungi boomed on a global biomass scale after that because there was nothing on Earth and life thrives here. So life started to thrive. Um, Mycelium thrives under rock. It avoids single points of failure. It is known to do that. So if there was a nuclear explosion somewhere, go ahead, Ashley.
In Chernobyl, I feel like I just watched a documentary that specialized in Chernobyl that they found these mushrooms that are popping up and able to decrease the radiation surrounding it. So these
Yeah,
mushrooms are
because yeah,
actually, yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
there's products actually. It's funny. There's a lot of products that are made out of Russia, specifically near Chernobyl. There's a product I remember called it's called Tengusta Blast. It's basically like a like an elixir of healthy things, but like they're definitely trying to use the momentum of this because Chernobyl's bounced back in a way that they can't understand. That the life is thriving there, and um, yeah, mushrooms there are thriving. Mushrooms are, and they're breaking things down. That's what they've always done. They break things down. So we're gonna find ways in the future to use mushrooms to break down plastics and all of the things that we need broken down.
Can I comment on this twofold?
Yeah, please do.
First, number one is okay, mushrooms are bioremediators. They accumulate heavy metals. That's their job. They clean and eat it. So we want to be careful where we forage something like Amanita. Amanita can't be grown in a lab. It's mycorrhizal. It's symbiotic. It grows with all the different plants and leaf litter decay in the forest. It doesn't grow in a lab. So we have to be selective where we procure our Amanita muscaria from. Amanita is a very big sequester of cadmium. So I've had some Amanita tested from Siberia that was high in cadmium. Now, you also have to remember that Amanita, you're not taking Amanita like you would like consume shiitake or oyster mushrooms. You're not eating it like by the pound like a food. You're taking it as a medicine, so you're just taking little bits. And the other thing to remember is that like it is a bioremediator. So my question is like, although it comes from acidic soils contain more cadmium than other soils, and they increase cadmium uptake in mushrooms. So it's like the Amanita is there to do that. So is it? My question is, and we don't know, is like, is the Amanita continuing to sequester cadmium in our body, or is it like depositing cadmium in our body? Like, what is it doing? And how do we remediate, how do we, if we're going to consume wild mushrooms, how do we do harm reduction? So like I've made a product called heavy metal detox, but I can't call it that. I'm going to call it something else because the FDA wouldn't like that. But using cilantro, parsley, things I've learned from Dr. B and other sources, like using herbs to like take with wild mushrooms to reduce the amount of any heavy metal that, or bioremediation that the mushroom may have pulled out of the environment. My other question is like when you're talking about the Chernobyl stuff and these fungi, Ashley, that you're maybe asking about, I've heard some things, but I want to let Michael talk. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, hey, so I'm actually just bottling up a bunch of tinctures of Amanita Muscaria right now, so perfect timing.
Awesome.
Um, Yeah, so well, a lot of different things. I wanted to talk about doctrine of signatures, but maybe I'll skip that. There's something a little more current right now in the conversation that's interesting to me, and I'd love to hear Dr. B and Gabby's opinions on this. So, I've actually worked with people, with clients where, um, like less than 1% of the population of people I've worked with had a very strange reaction to Amanita. And I talked to this woman and her husband, and she was really cool about it. She's like, I started microdosing this Amanita tincture, and I had like sweating and like vomiting and like diarrhea. And I was like, that's really weird. And she's like, I was like, there's nothing wrong with the batch. Nobody else has had an issue. So it wasn't like a wrong mushroom. And her husband was also having the same reaction. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not genetic. So like, what's going on? And like, my intuition was like, do you live, and they're in Ohio in this area where I know, I was like, do you live near a power plant? And she's like, yeah, actually, I do live near a nuclear power plant. And I was like, okay, because I've actually heard of people saying, and I don't think there's any studies done on this, but that Amanita muscaria can actually detoxify nuclear radiation in the body. And I've heard this from a couple other people. It's mostly anecdotal, but have you guys ever heard anything like this?
I mean, yeah, they're bioremediators, so this is what I'm thinking is what it does. And this very smart but very kind of cuckoo person in my life, who has come around and now has HIV, he's been asking me about the Chernobyl fungus. Like, I think there's like a lot coming up, like that we're about to find out, and we are going to be some of the people that find this stuff out first. Like, I have a client who has a liver transplant, and she does not get like high on psilocybin, but she's taking, like, every time she goes to the doctor they decrease her immunosuppressants because she's well integrated with this liver now. It's fucking amazing. I have another client with HIV who barely can like feel mushrooms, but this individual has been never taken the drugs. I can't, like, I'm speechless. Like, also, like, I'm like, if we talk about this, like, what, like, it's a big deal. But I think, Michael, that there's a good chance that the mushrooms are continuing to bioremediate us, and that's why I've been taking Amanita for so long. Sure, it's high in cadmium. I've been taking it in high dose, low dose. I've never been healthier or felt better in my life. I've never been more grounded. I've had like remission from scoliosis.
Hmm.
Like, I've
Yeah,
had
I think
my neck
I
nerves
think
like
that there's
snap back
like
into place.
Yeah, I think that like there's some nuances with the whole cadmium thing. Like that's a huge discussion with people. And so like first of all, like what level of cadmium is it and that you're consuming? If you're microdosing Amanita, also if you're making a tea or a tincture, how much of that cadmium is actually still in the mushroom material versus like the actual tea that you're drinking? It's probably going to be less. Like I had some of my Amanitas tested last year. And after talking with the lab tech, he was like, yeah, well, I mean, it says high cadmium, but like, how much are people eating? And I'm like, okay, they would need to eat like 3 grams every day to just be like at the threshold level of like what's not safe.
Exactly, and
And
that's what I didn't
yeah,
appreciate from the lab that I got mine tested from, because it's like you're using like food level amounts to say that this didn't pass a test when this is not a food. This is not, we're not using this for food. We're using it in very small amounts, and it's like,
yeah.
why
What
don't
lab
you
did you
just,
go with?
what?
What lab was it?
ACS Labs?
Okay, yeah, they're pretty good. I really like Triptomics in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, check them out. They do like I had to do like a whole synthetic and natural tryptamines report just to get a payment processor. So
Yeah,
I
I
did
know, us
muscle mold.
too.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't had any problem with ACS Labs. It's just been very enlightening. I'm writing down that other lab.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say too, like Dr. B was talking about doctrine of signatures. I think like one really good example that is like really tangible is like the whole concept of pine resin. So like if you look at like a tree and whenever it gets a wound, like a pine tree, it heals itself with pine resin. It oozes out, and it's actually like really similar to our blood. And if you actually like pack a wound in your body full of pine resin, it will like completely heal it. So it bleeds and it scabs just like blood, and it works on us the same way. So it's kind of like you can look at the way a plant grows, the color of it, the season of it, like all the different characteristics, and you can kind of be informed about how that's going to work with you. And the funny thing about Amanita, which I loved your description of that, because it's like it's the girl that nobody like everybody's afraid to talk to, but everybody wants to talk to. And that's
Yeah.
like the that's like the funny color, like the color red a lot of times is like associated with danger. But it's like, hey, like I'm here. Like, you see like brown and green everywhere, and you see bright freaking red, and you're like, holy shit, it holds your attention. And I think that's like goes into like the respect and curiosity and like fear that is associated around Amanita, which is, another reason why I love it so much.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what's so cool is that when you have a medicine that already comes with a reputation, then that means that the action of the medicine is already working before you even take it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the whole part of whenever you really get involved with medicine and like finding it is like the experience of going to the place where it resides, right? That's part of the medicine. Like you're walking through the woods, you're getting the negative ions from the earth, you're absorbing all the everything you're smelling, and that's really part of the medicine. And yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's funny, Michael. It's so funny you should say that. Gabby and I were talking about this before. Like, I mean, I've always been into mushrooms my whole life. I prescribe them to so many people, but I kind of fall on and off the wagon of what I take and what I use in my life. And since we started collabing a little bit more, I've been taking way more mushrooms, and
Mushroom
but
people have that effect.
yeah. And then, but the more I go in the forest and forage mushrooms, like, and even this fall, like Gabby will tell you, I found Amanita really late in the season, like days before it was freezing, I was still finding them. And, and I'm not ever looking for them. It feels like when I used to look for them, I'd find maybe less than now when I don't look for them, and it changes the energy. You guys don't know if anyone forages and I mean, even when I go into the forest with a little bit more ego and bravado, I kind of get my ass kicked and I get lost. But if I go with a like really modest and like I'm really well prepared and I don't have a very big basket, I end up needing a bigger basket, of course, because I went in modest. But
Right.
it's just teaching me so much about these, the doctrine of signatures. When I first learned about it, of course, things like milk thistle, this flower these spikes are protecting this beautiful liver colored plant that's purple, right? And we kind of developed this idea that it was protecting the liver based on some of that visual. But I think there might be something more complicated involved. Like maybe there's still some coevolution going on. Like, how did humans first know that there was silymarin? They didn't even do any assessment of milk thistle. There's no way they could have known that those chemicals were in there. They were just using the visual, analysis that Michael just talked about, how this tree is weeping all this sap. Well, yeah, I'm going to pack my wound with the same wound packing sap, right? I mean, hell, I've fixed my baskets plenty of times with tree sap in the field with just using that glue and a little lighter,
But
lighting
nobody is
on a.
gaslighting you into thinking that your own intuition and your own native connection with Mother Nature, that you are a part of her. When there's nothing in between you and that, it's very clear. Like Ashley and I both love the book Fellowship of the River, and what's the other one? I think the Cosmic Serpent more went into this,
Oh
but
yeah.
those books really illustrate how it's cross cultural. That's why to me it's such a spiritual practice, because the Maya, the Egyptians, that all these ancient like cultures and civilizations were coming to the same kind of conclusions. These people in the Amazon were connecting with plants, like they knew like what to take. Okay, like ayahuasca and chacruna, like mixing a DMT containing species with an monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Like Now I
that intuition is so high level that I think you're right. There has to have been something embedded in our cellular epigenetics at some point. Like, we sometimes forget, like we often just think of our relatives as the parents and grandparents, but we sometimes forget that like there are so many cellular imprints in us, from, witches to warriors. I mean, I'm sure every single person in this chat has both witches and warriors in their lineage.
Of course, and also like the further we progress, like where we're at now, there's so much in the way between, for so many people, there's so much in the way between ourselves and nature, between ourselves and our own intuition. There's been so much gaslighting and so much programming to make us think that we are not sovereign, that we do not have the answers for ourselves, and that we need a professional to tell us what to do about our own sovereignty. The Amanita, what Michael and you were talking about, the girl everyone wants to talk to, but everyone's too afraid to talk to, that's just us. That's just our own inner selves. That's just being ourselves.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like,
It's totally.
last mushroom ceremony, I literally was singing just off the key about like, let your boobs get saggy, get some gray hair, and fucking just be yourself. Why is it so hard? And that's like what the mushroom really, that's like the most beautiful lesson that I've taken from these mushrooms, is like just more self-acceptance, like more of and less of all the programming and all the things that I've put up to protect myself, and that society told me I couldn't dare to be myself. The mushrooms have really softened that.
Wow, it's crazy you're talking about this stuff.
Portal into all the other plants. I mean, like, I didn't really get into herbalism until I was like heavily into mushrooms. Like, I didn't start to go down that path and really be able to see the plant spirit medicine until I was like, had taken mushrooms heavily for many years. So.
Yeah, same here. I've always been a mushroom person. I just got invited to the Good Medicine Confluence to do some presentations, and I was just like, I'm just like the mushroom guy amongst all these herbalists. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, I think it's time to start learning about herbs. But yeah, then like Amanita actually helped me step outside into my actual gifts, and that was like the medicine for me. It was like these patterns and behaviors and like old timelines that don't serve you anymore. We're done with those, and you're gonna like step onto this new timeline. And like ever since I started working with Amanita, my life has like completely transformed, personally and with my relationship, with my business, everything. And it was an invitation, and I said yes. And
I can relate.
And a lot of people share the same way.
So much. And what you said earlier too about working with Amanita long before you ever started to consume Amanita, like, I can relate to that so much. I feel like Amanita has actually guided my path more than anything else. It guided me to my husband. It guided me back up to Alaska, to Palmer, and it even guided me to my friendship with Dr. B.
Oh my God, you just read my mind.
Yeah, because we met when he was presenting on Amanita, and we became instant friends.
But you know what's interesting about that, though, Gabi? You know what's interesting about that? The week before I did this presentation, actually, the people that wanted me to do that presentation, they called me and they said, it's a little too sciencey. Like, I think maybe you could just make it. Sometimes you make things a little too complicated for the public. Like, sometimes they need it like completely dumbed down. And I said, you know what I said to her? It's really interesting. I said to her, yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not changing my presentation because I actually am hoping the one person that shows up who knows what I'm talking about, I want to meet that person.
It was me.
It was you. It was you.
That. And I was like, I take Amanita.
Yeah, it was pretty funny because they all wanted to ask me dosing questions. And of course, in this community, I'm a physician. I can't really just publicly talk to people about dosing like that. And so I kind of was like, and then of course, Gabi was in the room and she started answering the questions for me. And right then and there, I talked to Gabi after the lecture, and my wife was actually there, and she said she knew, she could see it. She's like, I'll leave. I'm going to see you at home. Like, you're clearly staying. You found a new sister, and you're going to talk with her all night long. I get it. And so, yeah, that Amanita completely did that. It did the same thing for Michael, right? It kind of invited me in. I grew up with these mushrooms because I grew up in the boreal forest in Canada, right? But like, I was just a kid wasn't really like interested in any one thing growing up, even though those mushrooms were around. But of course now that's the girl in the polka dot dress. I cannot ignore her. I can't ignore her. But it's interesting, you guys, I wanted to comment one thing that Gabby was talking about, because in natural medicine, there's a slight insecurity, right? How can there not be? Like, think about it. I went into this profession because I actually can write prescription drugs if I need to. I can order an MRI and I can order blood work. I like all that. And so with what comes with that is also this need to prove yourself to the other medical professionals. And I think I spent almost my entire career telling my colleagues, well, this is evidence-based. But, it's funny, even though it's fun to do these lectures and do some research, I don't care much about the research as much now, because Mother Earth and these mushrooms have been doing the research for a billion years. They've been doing their own research, and they have their pulse, their tentacles, if you will, their mycelium. They have it on everything on this planet. Like they survived meteor that like killed all of the things on Earth. Like if anything's going to be learned, it's going to be, we're going to learn something from mushrooms. That's probably where it's going to go.
And it's Dr. Baba is not here right now, but she tells me the same thing. She goes, don't worry about that. Now, I'm coming from a family of scientists and medical professionals who really want nothing to do with me at all. And so I understand the like being the black sheep and stuff, but I've always felt the way that you're saying, which is that like, I know because it's ancient, and I know because it's in my like DNA. Like I feel the connection. Like,
and it's right. It's definitely, like, I think you're right. I think you spend a lot of time with plants, and I think that you've gotten rid of some of that domesticated noise that we all have in us, right? That keeps us from seeing things clearly in nature.
Oh yeah. Well, I lived a very unconventional life, and actually right now I'm circling back, and that's why I'm connecting with medical professionals, bridging the gap, and connecting with people like Ashley, like Michael, like you, and Tim is here, Desiree is here from the Cape. Like, it's really cool to see all the people that this like brings together. But like, I'm committed now to bridging the gap, and I know like the science is interesting, and like I enjoy getting my products tested now, because I'm like learning through that too, and I can put it into words to reach people where that really is very important. Like, we're doing this work with nursesfornurses.org, and these nurses are getting college credits to learn about Amanita and to hear conversations like this.
I think the difficulty I have whenever any medical professionals want to learn about it, and I was the same way. I want to preface that by saying I was the same way as this. When I first started, I think I was like, okay, I'll use lion's mane for brain health. I'll use reishi for energy and for focus. It'll be like the natural Adderall, even though that's ridiculous. That's like comparing zebras to turtles. It's not even close. Like, and we do that like when people are learning a new thing. I like any MD that's wanted to learn things like this from me. They can never see it the way I see it until they actually practice it for a while, because I'm never actually giving people protocols. I did when I was first a naturopath, when I was in my younger profession. I think I did give people a protocol that was like 2 capsules twice daily, 4 capsules at night before bed, whatever. And those are the things that we want to teach people. But at the same time, I don't think you can. That's, from my perspective, that's called cookbook medicine. And that doesn't really work.
It doesn't even work in Western pharmacology. So why would it work in
right. It doesn't. Exactly. It does not work.
That's where when they have trepidation going into psilocybin or Amanita or both, I will, for certain people, give them a protocol, because there's some things that they might need to know. Like if you're on SSRIs and you want to take psilocybin to, titrate off of them, and I'm not a medical professional, I'm just Gabi.
For sure. No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but then they'll always change their protocol. And I'm like, good. I like congratulate that. I'm like, because nobody knows you better than you. Like,
right.
First,
I mean, sometimes they need guidance, but I mean, I think the problem is that in traditional medicine, I have colleagues that we talk about this. If you're only getting 10 minutes to talk with somebody, you can never get the nuances that like what I'm saying is that, I didn't do a really great job of explaining doctrine of signatures because my brain goes all over with that subject, but I can apply that whole subject to how I actually interact with someone. If I spend a full 90 minutes with a person, I'm going to find metaphors and nuances that are going to give me some hints. And
Totally.
that's something you can't do in 10 minutes, right? You just can't do it. So it does require a little bit more of an art form than the pragmatic scientific form. But I mean, I think it all collides together. I think having the scientific stuff in my brain only helps me with the artistic part.
Totally, it's healing
Have
arts,
you
and
ever,
that's like what Chinese medicine is about too. You're right. Like the doctrine of signatures, there's so many different ways to look at it, but we are like walking doctrine of signatures. Like Ayurvedic medicine talks about this, like Vata, and we make categories to like be able to talk about it, but we're also completely unique individuals, and so. But the mushrooms are just so ancient and they're so savvy. It's like I have so much trust and faith in them that
I do too. I have a lot of and that's what I was trying to make the point earlier that like, you know, in oncology, we're often part of it is like making sure that the physicians we're working with understand that this is not going through the same liver pathway that the oncological drugs are going through. And whether it's an inhibition enzyme or an inhibitor enzyme that's being tripped up with this particular mushroom. But for the most part of all of the botanicals and everything that I'm using, amino acids included, I mean, this is the safest medicine I'm using by far. And I think it part of it is because of what we spoke about earlier, that we are family members, that we're, you know, this is why in my profession, I'm not going to inject a steroid. I had a person this week with a pretty bad knee issue from a surgery that's not working out, and I injected some amino acids and a whole bunch of peptides. That's just from my perspective. However, that said, we got to remember that amino acids also make the drugs too. So there's not a huge difference between them, right? I mean, a food is a drug too. So I think we can apply all of these things, and our intentions can change the action of how it works or how it's affecting someone.
also, yes,
do you
like
know Dr. Profrock?
Yeah,
Dr.
are you
Kenneth
kidding?
Profrock?
He was my teacher in school.
Of course he was. Of course he was. Okay, well, I've just met him at the Good Medicine Confluence, and
Kenneth
I love that
Profrock,
guy.
he's amazing. He's a
Oh,
wizard. We used to
that's
call him the
fucking,
wizard in school.
yeah, he is a freaking wizard. If you guys don't know Dr. Kenneth Profrock, you should totally look him up. He's
Yeah,
in
he's amazing. He's
he's
amazing.
in Arizona. He's such a badass. He did like two presentations, and I talked to him afterwards, and I was like, I need to. I'm feeling called to educate myself and to kind of like have more of like, you know, some formality for my practice, you know. And I was like, should I become a naturopath or what? And he's like, well,
Just
you
go
know, you
work with
could,
him for a month. Just go stay with him for a month.
yeah, yeah, right. Well, he was like, you know, you could do, you know, 8 years of schooling after you get a bachelor's degree for 4 years. And, you know, at the end of all of it, the board of doctors are going to say, well, you can't prescribe Amanita Muscaria. And I was like, okay. He's like, you should probably just become an herbalist. Just
Yeah,
because,
I
you
mean,
know,
I think we're now getting to an era where, look, there's going to be a lot of cookie cutter people out there that want your degree behind your name, but I think when people look for true healing, they think that's found through word of mouth, and people who are getting the true
that's why
healing.
the bridging of the gap is so important. Like us talking with like me talking with you, Dr. B, talking with Michael, you know, there's like this like understanding, and then like, you know, you like Ashley is on this chain of events as a nurse. It's like Ashley is receptive to what we're saying, and she's going to be able to reach people in her with her credentials and her like understanding and her bedside manner and stuff. And so it like trickles in, like the bridge is the gaps are bridged like mycelium does, like through networks and through working together. And you know, there's groups of people that I'll be able to reach, that Dr. B will be able to reach, and there's people that I won't be able to reach, but maybe someone that I can reach that person. And so it's like, go ahead, Ashley.
Um, I've always had a passion for mushrooms, but my passion to really push it out to the rest of the world, it was my own healing journey. And I think that in the medical community, we are facing some radical medical issues, emotional issues, spiritual issues. This is all coming to a head, not with just within our patients, but within ourselves too. And I think that a lot more Western medical practitioners are really realizing that the answers aren't there, and they are kind of doing some research and getting back to naturopathic. And I think that there is a wave coming where whether through word of mouth or not, but mostly from use and from the ability to have your life transformed and healed by these sacred medicine is going to shift this. And then when the Western medical professionals are inspired by it and see the difference and start promoting it, I mean, this is really the forefront of a wave that I believe is coming in medicine.
And
Oh
how
my
do
God,
you,
Ashley, you're so right. I feel like we're about to have everyone's about to go talk to the girl wearing the dress because in this community I have about 3 oncologists now that are super cool because I've been working with them for 20 years and they now have seen, oh, Markian hasn't hurt anybody. He's never hurt anybody from 20. He said some weird shit, but he's not hurting anybody. And for 20 years, the guy has actually, everyone's pretty happy with what he does. So now I talk to those oncologists and you know what they tell me now? They'll tell me like 15 years ago, they would be like, oh, wait, can you hold all these things during chemo? And now they'll just tell me like, they'll tell their patient, you know what, whatever Dr. B wants to do is fine. I trust him. And because they know that these weird mushrooms I'm using, I've been using them the whole time I've been here. And like, it's everybody's feeling like good about what we're doing. So the oncologists, I think, are starting to really begin to, obviously they're not talking to the red dress girl yet, but they're talking to me and I'm a friend of hers. So they're starting to talk to, they're starting to get more like, okay, I've got to accept that this is, but in their defense, they're using really crazy drugs. Like I always, when I interact with any of these doctors, I always start by letting them know you have your patient on some difficult medications, and I understand that. I don't want to interfere with them in any way. I'm trying to help your patient so that you look better. I want you
it
to
is
be more
serious,
successful.
like what they're doing, and it does what they do. It does save lives, like in those cancers that are like out of control and fast growing. It's like you need something really strong, or the person will die. Like I
Yeah,
don't
and I
know.
mean, they can't ignore the actual science. Like now, there's real science showing certain mushrooms actually providing certain sugars that you guys are well aware of, these beta glucan sugars that are literally being taken up by T killer cells in the lymphatics. And literally that is where cancers are spreading. So
So some of these mushrooms are actually feeding the cancer T cells.
no, they're feeding the T cells that go and devour the cancer.
Oh, go and devour. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay. You need
Eh,
doctors that are okay with mushrooms. Desiree, you should link up with Dr.
Oh,
B. Dr. B, put your email down there because Desiree, maybe she can, I
Are
don't
you
know.
local, Desiree?
Yeah, I'm in Anchorage.
Oh, you are? I thought you were someone from Cape Cod. Excuse me.
Okay,
No, no,
yeah.
it's okay.
So Dr. Rabinowitz and Dr. Stephen Liu, they're pretty open to what I do. They're and a
Where they
lot.
work?
What's that?
Where they work?
Alaska Oncology.
I used to go to Alaska Oncology, but I see Dr. Clicks, and she moved to Katmai Oncology.
Yeah, Katmai's a little more conservative in their perspective, but there are doctors there that I work with. Dr. Chernchella is very open to what I do, and she's at Katmai Oncology.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then, often another thing to do is to ask for if you're a local person, ask for a navigator, a nurse navigators in town. They all know who I am, and they will make the appropriate referral, and they'll even go to your visit and be an advocate for you so that you can, it's sometimes not easy to talk about the girl in the red dress. So if you have an advocate with you at your visit, you can talk about the girl in the red dress a little easier.
Okay, that sounds good.
one of my colleagues and wholesale clients is a doctor, and he refers people to me, my business. I have doctors, therapists, and other like nurses and stuff that send people my way. Like there are a lot of cool doctors out there. The one doctor I'm talking about, he's a doctor of functional medicine and he has a doctorate in divinity. And he actually has week-long retreats in Colorado where he guides people through a couple different psilocybin ceremonies buffered by Amanita and Kava and working with Kana. He works with people a month beforehand to try to get them off of their medications or at least like down to a level that they feel comfortable with. But then like at the end of the ceremony, they also will give people the option to have 5-MeO DMT and Bufo. So like and this guy is working with like people that are in like the FBI, the CIA, people that like are Army veterans, you know, first responders, things like that. And so there's like, you know, there's a huge amount of people that you would not imagine doing psychedelics and healing that like actually fucking need it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm kind of new to psychedelics, so I need to get some connections, I guess.
Right, we don't call people can call it whatever they want, but we have a ministry up here in Palmer. It's Universal Ministry of Transcendence, and mushrooms are our sacrament. So come meet us if you want, and see if it's like, you know, if you look at it that way, then we can talk.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We're right at Chai Medicinals, in Palmer. Have you been to the shop, Desiree?
No, I met you at the psychedelic conference.
Oh, I remember you now. Okay, 1840
Yeah.
South Colony Way. I don't know if do you come up to Palmer ever?
I don't have a ride there.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I can bring it to Palmer when I go pick mushrooms. That's not till next summer.
Yeah, the problem is I'm in a wheelchair, so it's hard.
Yeah, I was just trying to think like how we'll just stay in touch, Desiree. Like, who knows? Like, maybe we can get a like someday when someone's coming up with a ride that has wheelchair capacity, you could get in on it or something. This is my email at gmail.com. Just send me an email so I have a connection with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone
The
want to
one
ask any more questions? Tim, did you want to ask any questions? I know you did you get to try the Amanita?
I did, yeah. I'm gonna need to send you a menu order for some more. Yeah, I just did 2 days. I'm currently doing microdosing protocols, and those were really fascinating. I think I need to do a little bit more time with them to see what the effects are, but I just noticed like you said, really subtle, quiet, expansive. It was a really nice, clean experience. And I'm doing these on working days. I work as a real estate agent. I have a small business. So I'm interacting with a lot of people and doing a lot of what I call 3D, interactions. And so for me, I mean, those were wonderful. So yeah, everything was positive on that. The
That's
Brahma is working really well. That's what I'm doing today.
amazing. So, okay, what you just said led me to something I wanted to mention earlier, which is that it's hard to prescribe a protocol because even our own experience with the mushroom is going to just vary so much from person to person, and even from time to time in our lives, like what comes through, what becomes available for healing. It's such a personal process. I just put a really cool link in the chat. This is a YouTube video from some Swiss or not psychopharmacologists, they're Swiss psychologists, um, who are now that they found Amanita like a year ago, they are like completely dedicated to Amanita and Amanita education. So that link is a really, really cool video that they put out. They talk about vitamin D3 in Amanita with like seasonal depression. They talk about ancestral healing. They talk about peeling away the personality, coming back to essence. So I've noticed like in my Amanita journey that like it's helped me a lot with boundaries. But it's just like such a personal, like sacred journey. R. Gordon Wasson very much believed that it was the Soma written about in the Rig Veda. We really don't know. I think Amanita and psilocybin work amazingly together. I think they're amazing friends. And so, yeah, I just look forward to hearing, or to seeing how things kind of unfold and to see what we can learn together. I love how mushroom people are so sharing. Like Michael has an apothecary business also, and he reached out to me to collaborate and be a vendor on his list. And it just goes to show like the healing power of mushrooms. Like look at us coming together. We don't look at each other as anything but like allies and like finding ways. And we know because we've taken so many mushrooms that there's plenty to go around. And like it's just about sharing and connecting and learning together. And I think that's like one of the most valuable lessons that the mushroom has taught us, as well as the doctrine of signatures, just embedding that into us. And the cultures where something like the doctrine of signatures, like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, I mean, look how prevalent mushrooms are in Chinese medicine. They get it.
Well, they're also the oldest. I mean, they're one of the older practices of medicine in the world, right? Like our medicine's only conventional medicine in the U.S. is only a couple hundred years old, maybe 150, whereas they've been doing it there for 8 to 10,000 years. So they've been doing it longer, and they probably have a little bit more understanding of what needs to be done as far as our harmony in our bodies. Because mushrooms really they fix the harmony on Earth before we mess it all up.
Does anyone else want to ask a question? We have just a couple more minutes. Is it Dina or AJ? Did you guys want to introduce yourselves or ask any questions? AJ.
Good afternoon. I'm a massage therapist, and I've been doing a lot of variety of massage in my practice. And the shiatsu, where you really like look at somebody and you notice a smell. It's just the different way that they look at things different than Ayurveda. So it's just because everything is in relationship to each other. So, right, Ayurveda, fire is anger, but in shiatsu, fire is joy. So everything is with how it is within relation. And so since all of us are so different, yes, the different relationships of the different medicines that we take are going to affect us differently. And absolutely the things that we have going on. And diving into this whole myofascial layer that I've been in this last year, because it's been also so misunderstood, that people really learning how to take care of their bodies physically with proper medicine and proper movement, I think really are going to be going hand in hand as the medical world is tired of all of our old answers.
I think the medical world is also discovering new things.
Yes, but shiatsu and like stomach massage has been around forever, but you won't get anybody in Western massage to even think of touching your stomach. And we need to be doing more stomach massage. We need to be tying together that gut and medicine and brain for sure.
Do you want to know something really crazy? This is probably like too abstract, but I have to say it. It's that Beyond Telepathy book, Andrija Puharich. Okay, he was so ahead of his time. Like he talks about the plasma, the electrical like psi plasma in our bodies, and like it's directly relational with mushrooms, and it's directly relational with telepathy and micro, or what's it called, like quantum tunneling. It's all interrelated. It's about the fascia is what it is. And it's,
well, that's what I was going to speak to,
yeah.
Is that like we still haven't figured out the fascia system yet. So, medically we're actually discovering some new things. I don't know if you're aware, but they're thinking about making the fascia its own organ system. It's so complicated. It's an area, it's probably our internet. It's probably connected to our mirror neurons. It's where we store trauma. It's a pretty amazing whole new thing that we're discovering. My question is like, well, how do mushrooms impact this fascia network? Because we don't even know, because we don't even understand the fascia network. So we can't understand how any medicine's working on the fascia network. And it's interesting because you're right about these practices that are ancient probably have more validity. If someone has problems and right now, what do? We give them scalexin, we give them muscle relaxers, we give them pain medication. None of those medicines go to the fascia, actually, none of them. So yeah, I bet you stomach. Yeah. These massage techniques are probably more valid than any new high-tech medicine we have. However, what I meant to say was, once we fully figure out what the fascia is, we'll probably be able to make better medicines for it.
So I have a new little theory that kind of got downloaded to me about it. The person I'm studying with calls it like a straitjacket effect. I used to refer to it in my own body as a silence of the lamb skin. So that fascia is our third liquid in our body. The main bulk is around the brain and the spine, but it goes absolutely everywhere. And it's when the funeral director is pumping formaldehyde into the dead body by artificially pumping the heart, all that goo that comes out is fascia. But where you've had a fall, you've now turned that fascia into lava rock or rock, so then there is no exchange. And so everybody needs you know, a 5-minute fascia pull up their tailbone to pull their tailbone out of and pull their tailbone back, because everybody's falling on their tailbone and everybody has fascia locks on their tailbone. And it's crazy that it's not painful. It's amazing when you actually have proper fascia work done, even on the internal. It's blown me away.
AJ, I want your services. Are you in town? And also, I would love, AJ, if you ever wanted to do one of these video Zooms to share with our community from Chai Medicinals about fascia. If you ever wanted to do that, we should touch base. We have each other's number.
Yeah, just so everyone understands, I have been blessed. The Matsu Foundation, I didn't understand this myself at all till a year ago in December. And they've paid for over 100 hours for me to be doing all this training recently. And it's just been mind-boggling, and it's a whole new door. I had no idea I was going down.
Amazing. I would love to have you as a guest on one of these Zooms. So anyone who wants to put their info, go ahead. Some people have Michael put his stuff up here, and there's Desiree's contact. I wrote Andrea Puharich's name again because what we're talking about is very relevant. Ashley, Just a Nurse RN. So thank you guys all for coming. I'm gonna say goodbye, and you know, we'll do it again. Markian and I are looking to put together a course, hopefully by February, where we can offer like a segmented class about mushrooms for medical professionals, and everyone, but geared towards medical professionals. So we will keep you posted when we have dates and info on that. We're going to be joining up with Michael to do some stuff for all things Amanita science and magic. Alice is an amazing resource for body work if you're in the area. Tim, it was nice to see you. Thank you guys. And we'll catch up soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Great talking with you.
Yeah, great talking to you guys.
Thank you for coming.
Talk to you soon. Bye.